Sounds good. You ain't done either, you ain't signed all your stuff.
I'm gonna sign John.
Hard copy of the
Good.
latest of the amendment. Emailed out to you.
Thank you, sir.
Got it? And you can follow
Appreciate
along.
it. Try. Sometimes get lost,
There, sir.
Thank you.
not for lack of it.
Right.
And I got your new license. Get my
You
free.
will be behind.
Did you see? Making public comments or anything,
For
or
you.
not sign up for public comments?
Yeah, I'll press.
Nobody's going to jail or anything.
I don't think so. I don't think they cited anybody yet.
But everything else carried over to your file. It was great, except that one thing, no,
Reading the license.
They're trying to get in contact in the last few days, and I've been taking so much allergy medicine, everything's too dry. Last week. And I just
If Senator, that's all pretty much. I mean, obviously you can negotiate something, but for the most part, it's very breach of terms.
And when's the first donuts coming out? You don't know yet.
We had
Check them out.
Marty had dinner time, probably down
Still day
there.
last night.
Right after that, April the next
Really?
day.
Yeah.
That's how he said, I want to do it. And I said, you know, if I had made to work this morning, I was gonna go to the city and buy some donuts.
I started reading Joe.
You know, it would be a bad idea.
No, yeah, I mean, you get a lot of business.
They know,
Especially
they're not being that way,
Well,
it's just
I
a
don't
little
know.
small fish in the pond.
You're not a morning
I
gal.
don't,
Fish
not
to fry.
anymore. I used to be.
What kind of a high
Anymore,
side?
no.
Yeah, donut morning, it's like
They're
4
in
a.m.
neighborhoods.
Yeah,
next door.
yeah,
Right, you got plenty of
I can't.
Actually, our system is like 2
I was in-
our
We
system.
I
could
was
do
in
a
Key
late
West.
night, early morning, and go to bed like it.
I was in Key West reading.
Not volunteering.
I was Key West, you know, I
Never made it to the beach at all.
had too
Loved
much
it.
to do.
Had too much to do. I mean, I was never so glad to step back on the plane, get out of there. I was so
We
tired.
don't wanna hear about that.
It was, but it was exciting. I mean, I mean, I'll see the,
We're going, not Key West, we're going to Sandusky,
oh yeah,
in a couple of weeks. I'm ready.
we're going to a beach thing. June, July, maybe. She got another group. There's a group of us.
But, you know,
Just me and her and the golf cart, and I was all over that island. I think I left an untraveled street.
I haven't met Key West, but I want to. It's got quite good stuff, so it'll be very entertaining.
Like I said, every day is an event. It's a lady, it's 10 at night. Yeah, we go back ride, take a break, take a shower, or be home. But golf cart, that's the only way.
And, we're we are going there, we've been there before, you don't drive around, in the town, it's all water.
Yeah.
But everything's over there. You can eat, shop, everything, groceries.
Mile and a third, I think, from the Louis, all the way to the other end of the island, Sunset, where we, it was nothing.
Not crazy, it should be there.
But we,
This is not in. Look and see.
did you get it? And I hope
She wasn't. I was kind of requesting in a
Oh,
letter.
really? Okay.
This is
Oh,
what.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You got it, yeah.
How are you?
Appreciate the email on the county and school stuff.
Everybody sends it out.
Oh, really? I got a daughter that teaches, so I'm right in the middle of it.
This.
I never got that, since you said it.
I don't usually send it. Tracy does it. That's not it.
That's not it.
That's what I'm saying.
do that. Shit.
Good timing.
Send it to Tanya. Manager Ross.
You have to, you don't.
There it is.
Thank you.
12%.
We need a shot. We need a shot. We need a shot.
You write that language down.
About what the motion was made?
We don't have the motion. However,
I'm sure.
what do you say? I'm not playing. All right, we're gonna.
I get nervous.
Copy of the draft financial statements we just completed. This is the.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and open our meeting. Is the camera on? Yes. Okay, good. Okay. Larry, if you will lead us in the pledge.
This time you're gonna lead us in the pledge.
Oh, that's my turn.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear God and Heavenly Father, it's again we come to you, God, thanking you for the beautiful day that you give us to have and enjoy. God, we ask that you look down on this meeting and bless each and every person in attendance here. God, we ask as always that you watch over our emergency response personnel, our military, and all those that give us this freedom. God, in these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the solid waste meeting tonight. I just want to remind everyone that we have a lot of things on our agenda tonight. So let's all try to stay focused on what we're doing. We don't have anyone for public comments. All right. So we are going to get started on a very long agenda this evening. We have no items of public concern, so if you'll check your agenda. Ooh, that's a long one. No, that's right. It is a long one.
Okay, that's great.
Agenda.
No, you can take it.
Here. I had it somewhere.
Thanks.
It's.
Yep.
All right, we have approval of our March 8th, 2022 minutes. According to what we made a motion on last time. That passed. I will give you all an opportunity to read over the draft minutes, and we will see if there are any changes anyone needs to make.
the approval, if anybody had any cut and changes, we can discuss it.
We can mention the typos. Well, I'm gonna mention something that's. Yeah, I'm gonna have to abstain, but I want the signature.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second for discussion?
I'll second.
Do we have a second on discussion? Discussion of the minutes. I have, one thing on here that Shelby, in the middle, the blank that you left on the minutes, that man's name, I have it on here. Thank you. Is John Gray.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to abstain, but I would like to make a request, just a general request, that our minutes include in the last page a line with the chairperson's,
Yes, I noticed that too, that it was left out,
okay,
so
so the chairperson can sign it in the future.
we need the respectfully, submitted by.
I never had that part, so I'm sorry, I didn't have that part.
Okay, I appreciate that. Oh, yeah, Kevin had that part, didn't he?
Yeah,
Two minutes
but
had
now that
Keep
they,
leaving it out, and keep getting me in trouble.
And I am going to abstain from the minutes, but I did see two typos where it says, under new business, open records letter, Mr. Jameson, under Matlock bin borrowed area, it says Miss Wilton Brewster, and then it says Mrs. Wilton Brewster. So just to keep it uniform, whatever you, however you desire to be, the title.
That's, did you see that? Are you making the corrections?
Do you want, Shelby, are you okay? I don't have the Word version. Are you okay to make the corrections?
oh, yeah.
I had a couple other minor ones when you're, Pat, are you still going?
I'm through.
Okay, let's see. Should be special call, should be special called, C-A-L-L-E-D, meeting. I think there's two references there, one in the motion in the middle of the first page and
The last paragraph.
last paragraph on the first page. And there is a reference under new business number 5, it should be borrow instead of borrowed area, B-R-R-O-W. And then the same on the second to last paragraph at all, second line, it says borrowed, so just take off the ED if you got that, Shelby. And then News Herald, H-E-R-A-L-D, instead of H-A-R-O-L-D. Then add the signature line like you said, and I think that's what I've got.
All right. Any other corrections? Discussions? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes, as amended with corrections. With all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we do have one for abstaining.
Two, abstain.
Oh, you did too, I'm sorry.
I missed the meeting.
We have two that abstain, Art and
75-0.
Shelley on those corrections. If you will just email those to me, because I'll have to submit those to county office building, the new minutes.
Okay.
Okay? All right, thank you. All right, if we'll move on to item number 5, approval of the April 12th agenda. Need a motion to approve the agenda?
I make the motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
And a second. Art? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify with aye. All right, agenda approved. I moved some of our things up towards the top tonight since we have such a long agenda and kind of get some of these presentations out of the way. So right now, we're on item 6, the audit report update by Richard Hill.
Good evening. I think you've got a copy of the draft in front of you, which I was going to cover really briefly in the interest of time. So we completed this actually Monday in trying to get it to this meeting so we could give you all the option going in and approving this and thus wrapping up the audit for the 2021 year. On page 1, 2, and 3 is our report. It's a clean or unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest level report an audit firm can issue. Page 4, 5, and 6 is management's discussion and analysis. In all fairness to Kevin and Kelly, we just sent this yesterday. So we've asked them to review the future events section since that's talking about the pending contract amendment to make sure that wording's up to date. So that's kind of a whole item. Starting on page 7, there's 3 basic financial statements. A statement of net position at June 30, 21. You had total cash of $4,489,776 broken down between operating and the amount you're holding for Poplar Springs. Accounts receivable was just the June payment that you received in July. A little bit of interest receivable. Capital assets, there were no additions during the year, so the only change there is the annual depreciation. Total assets are $5,946,000. Accounts payable is routine bills that get paid every 30 days. And the long-term liability is the estimated closure, post-closure cost, which we get that information from the state. We get the percentage of capacity from Republic, and it's just doing the math on that. So that's a little over $7 million. And then assets minus liabilities gives you net position, which is a negative $1,131,027. Then on page 8 and 9 is the statement of revenue and expenses and change in net position. Revenue was down a little bit in this 2021 year compared to the prior year. Fortunately, the costs were down as well, especially the current year addition of the post-closure cost. So if you go all the way over to page 9, 3 lines up from the bottom, you'll see that you had more revenue than expense by $70,527. So you actually reduced the net deficit that you had from the end of last year to the end of this 21 year. So that's good. Finally, the last statement is the statement of cash flows on page 10 and 11. The first subtotal on page 10 shows that your operating activities generate $242,000 cash, interest receivable another $51,000, so that your cash balance went up $294,000 for the year. The notes start on page 12. Really not much that's changed there from the notes that you've seen in the prior years. On 16 and 17, the closure and post-closure shows the details of that computation. The one thing that we don't have in here right now that I spoke briefly with Kevin about, probably going to put a subsequent event note in, because in January of 22, the amount of your estimated closure, post-closure cost increased pretty dramatically based on an amended plan that y'all filed. It went from a total of 8.3 million to some over 13 million. And so in the interest of transparency, we think that's significant enough that needs to be added.
Here's a copy for reference, here's a copy of the letter from TDEC showing the updated estimate for the county financial assurance. And it's increased fairly significantly from in excess of $8 million to $13 million.
This will be covered under our new agreement if we,
Correct,
this liability rather.
that's correct.
Be covered under the bond, yes.
Thank you, sir.
And that was in response to an amended site plan, I believe it was, that was filed after June 30, 21, which is why we didn't incorporate it into these numbers. So with that addition of one note, subject to any minor revisions in the management discussion analysis, then this is what we would present as the draft financial statements. The last thing I would mention, the last 2 or 3 pages are a report on internal control compliance. We don't have any findings that we would include in this final ballot.
And we did, I received a phone call from the mayor asking about the significant increase, and we were given the details of the significant increase.
Yeah, we talked about it and also talked with Republic folks about that. This is straight from TDEC. It was based upon the phase closure plan that was submitted, and the increased cost is basically direct from TDEC. So they're, originally when we first saw it, we thought, well, maybe there's some kind of mistake, but that is
Well,
in
we're
fact accurate.
actually spreading our footprint with this major model.
We will be, but that's not included in this.
Right, I was gonna say,
That's
that
not
hasn't been
included.
added in yet.
This is
Not
the,
included.
no, it's not.
So this is a straight line increase based on our numbers now.
From roughly 8 million to roughly 13 million.
Wow, $5 million.
Yep.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
No, that's their estimate based on what they perceive as actual liability and cost.
But it's also based on the closure plan that we submitted.
Right.
It's really, that's what triggered the readjustment.
Yes.
So it does have an effect. The new permit modification has effect.
No.
No,
No, the phase closure plan we submitted in January was just for the existing footprint, the 41 acres roughly.
Okay.
And after TDEC saw that phase closure plan for the existing footprint, they reevaluated what they thought were the closure, post-closure costs, and that's where they came up with that number. I had the same question and confusion. I thought, my gosh, they must have included some expansion, but it does not.
How can they be a $5 million increase?
The basis of the original estimate was based on the original permit with TDEC from 15 years ago.
Gotcha.
So it was based on that number and with their inflationary scaling that they would add every year, but it was based on that original estimate supplied in, 2000, whatever.
So I'm understanding you correctly is
This
we
is an
submitted it
update.
15 years ago and it started down as pipe,
Yeah.
but there's been no increase until bam, now.
Yeah, it basically, the cost of closure outpaced inflation by a lot.
Wow. Wow.
Mike, anything to add or any other thoughts?
No, I think you summed it up very nicely. Sure, happy to answer specifics, but there are a couple of specific line items in there that TDEC called out as being just undercalculated previously, that they also just didn't really catch in there. With the phase closure process, they're really taking a high degree of focus on all facilities. So the other landfills that I'm responsible for in Tennessee saw similar dramatic increases this time around. So if it's any consolation, it's not unique to you, even though it stings still.
Wow. So certainly that will be reflected in future audits if we don't make amendments to the
So-
agreement.
So this time next year, when we get a major audit, this is gonna go up even higher.
That's correct.
I It's for constructed footprint.
I was gonna say, it's based on what you're
So-
constructing.
Restricted.
When you build another cell, it will go up, but in the contract, we're closing as we, if the contract is approved, we're
Yes.
closing as we build, so that number shouldn't be escalating dramatically.
It should go down, but then increase on your back.
And then to Richard, when we talked about this, is if the amendment's executed and a performance bond is in place, he would then reevaluate the way he states everything in the audit.
Yeah.
If that's, you can add on to that.
Yeah, it seemed like at that point, it's no longer the commission's liability, because you've contractually, or someone else has contractually taken that on and secured it with a payment bond or performance bond or whatever type that is. So at that point, it looks like that would be a reason to take that liability off the books.
So Republic will ultimately
Assume that
assume
responsibility.
that responsibility and change our financials, probably not until next year, based on
Whenever
this
the
report.
contract's approved,
Yeah.
that actually, that liability
Shift.
transfers.
Okay.
So in theory, the audit could look very different next year.
It sure looks different now. $5 million difference.
Difference, but at least it's explainable difference.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, 15 years ago, what we had constructed is quite a bit different from what's constructed today, so it's understandable.
Cost of things going up, we found that with adjustments, I mean, so many things. Alright, do we have any questions?
And I know, this was just completed and just handed to you all, so what I would suggest, is that we have a motion to accept, the audit, but, you have an opportunity to send any questions, or if you have an opportunity to look at this in the next, we'll say 7 days, is that fair, Richard? So if you have questions, that way Richard could answer them and address them before anything's submitted to the state, if that's acceptable for everybody.
And then if we don't hear anything back in 7 days, then we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. And
That's
then
okay.
just for simplicity's sake, I might email you or Kevin or both, and then y'all forward them to me.
Yeah.
As opposed to us all kind of talking in a circle.
Well,
Send
to be
it, send any comment, yeah,
To
send it
be
to me.
politically correct and follow our rules, we'll have to email them to Kevin. And then
Any
you-
questions or comments, please get to me within the next 7 days.
And then we'll touch
If that's
base with-
suitable to the board.
Do you need a motion on that?
Mm-hmm, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we tentatively accept this pending word back from the board.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Who wants it? Who said it? Art?
Art and Larry at the same time, take a picture.
Give it to Art.
We'll give it to Art. All right, we have a motion to accept tentatively. Got questions for the next 7 days, and we have a second by Art.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I feel uncomfortable with this. I would like to look at it for a month for the next meeting, so I'm going to be voting no. But I think in light of this letter and the audit, I would like an opportunity to really look into it. If I have any questions, to contact TDEC or whoever else. So, I will vote no for that reason.
All right, we still have a motion and a second on the floor. So we will do a roll call.
Mr. Jamison,
Aye.
Ms. Bivens,
Aye.
Mr. Field,
Aye.
Chair,
Aye.
Mr. Small,
Aye.
Ms. Hunter,
No.
Mr. Stewart.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. All right,
Thank you.
Kevin will get back to you soon.
We'll touch base in a week and
Yep.
we'll wrap it up after that.
Perfect.
I have a question for Mr. Hill before he leaves the podium. This has to do with, hopefully, I'm going to be working on a budget this year. And I had a difficult time with the depreciation issue. I spoke with the finance director, And in their budget, of course, it doesn't show depreciation the way we would. How do you suggest that we approach a budget, and what number would we use for depreciation, and where exactly are we going to put that?
We, what I would recommend is if you're getting a template or like an Excel spreadsheet or something from the finance office,
Yes.
then you can just add that in another line. Just because they don't track it doesn't mean that you can't budget it.
Okay,
So I would just add that in, and then for an amount, I would use, in the audit, $2,367, and that's what it's been for several years, because you haven't added to the capital assets of the commission, and so you might round it to $2,400, and I think that'd be a reasonable estimate to use. And then on that topic, I think most of the board knows this over the years, if the commission acquired more land, that doesn't change depreciation, because under the accounting rules, you don't depreciate land. So it's only when you buy equipment or build a building or something like that. So
Okay.
that estimate should be pretty reliable.
okay, thank you.
We've done none of that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, we'll move on to item 7.
APR.
Yes, and the greatest person here.
First thing, I'd like to thank Shelby and Mr. Tim from the Development District for all of their efforts pulling this together. Because I was just facilitating them to do their good work, and I want to thank both of you for doing your piece. Tim, I'll kind of turn it over to you, and because you really, hold together and understand this thing, if you want to just kind of walk the board through it.
Everyone should have before you a printed copy of your annual progress report, of which you also received an electronic copy to review. We went out in multiple iterations. This is our penultimate final draft, we'll call it. And I assume everyone has time to review that. Are there any questions or comments about that draft?
Will we have an opportunity to slip something in at the last minute somehow, or is this pretty much a firmed up, finished draft?
It's pretty firm. You could, if you have a comment or question, we could vote to approve with your suggestions.
So Art has some additional recycling that you want to add, right?
That would be good if we could.
Do we have one more of these?
Yeah.
Mr. Jameson is lacking in his
Oh, okay.
availability.
Yeah, I'll grab one for you. I have extras, I'll just leave them on the table in the back, for anyone who can come in. So you have recycling these from
Thank you very
companies?
These are from Lenore City.
Okay,
And one deals with green waste. They had about 80 to 83 tons of green waste for the past month,
okay.
for example. And a more typical production rate for the city is 50 to 60 tons. I don't think that was incorporated.
Okay, so this will be for the 2021 calendar year?
Correct.
So if they can estimate that, and if someone could email a tonnage a year over, I'll contact the city and they can fill out a form to put it through. Well, we can still approve, but we can add recycling numbers all the way until you have now at the end of April. So even when you approve your report, we can continue to add recycling numbers from industry. And if the cities want to add things, we can continue to do that all the way to that deadline, just to increase your conversion.
So the mechanism is to get it to you.
Correct. We can send it to Shelby also,
Okay.
or Steve, and we'll work together on that.
Is it always due at the same time of the
Yes,
year?
so, the Solid Waste Management Act of 1991 mandates that every county and the state complete this report and submit it by March 31st of every year. So there's a process of that is completing the report itself, collecting your recycling numbers, as many as you can from the businesses within your county's boundaries. Then you present it to your annual, or your solid waste board, who votes to approve it. Then the solid waste board chair and county mayor both have to sign off on it after board approval, all before March 31st. You can't begin until January 1st of the calendar year, and it has to be completed by March 31st. And it's all done in an electronic system called Retrack. A Canadian company runs that, and TDEC contracts with them to manage that system.
So we can start in January.
January 1st.
Which we probably need to take a note of that because I kind of sprang this on Steve at a later date, and we had to gather numbers together and make some changes quickly, and if it hadn't been perceived, I don't know that we could have gotten this done in the amount of time we did, so we need to have somewhere that we jot down those things that are annual, that we have to get done. Another one I'd like to add to that list too, so that we can come back and look at that list, is our, we have an insurance that we have to do with the county, and that has already been filled out and turned in. And it has to be completed actually by the first of April. But Susan Husky has been very good about making sure that that is sent to us early. Alright, so Art, if you will send your numbers over to Steve or over to Shelby, both, you might do both. They get them there.
I got your email, so I'll forward it on.
Okay, thank you.
So in addition to the printed report, you also have a calculation sheet in front of you. So this is the actual numbers, the hard numbers that go into your report. So TDEC calculated that in 2021, Loudon County generated 222,270.5 tons of Class 1 waste. You had public recycling of 1,910.97 tons and 443.17 tons of tires. Your private recycling from companies within the county is a staggering 525,054.7 tons. And then putting that through TDEC's real-time diversion conversion, it calculates, you had a 29.7% landfill rate, which makes your diversion rate 70.3%. So, Solid Waste Management Act mandates that you show a 25% diversion rate, so you're well above that. So this is a pretty good number. I think you should be proud.
So I think that the recycling numbers that we have in the industry in terms of what TDEC counts for recycling and diversion between the paper sludge that is used for alternate daily cover, we get credit for that, that's generated by Kimberly Clark. Even though it doesn't get disposed or not used in Loudon County, we get credit for it because it was generated here. And same thing for the sludge from what used to be Tate and Lyle, it has a beneficial use. So again, we get credit for that.
Too.
Yeah, and then Green's Recycling had a huge steel recycling number, which I'm not, it's what we were given. I think it's a good number. It looks really high to me. I'm not sure if all that steel that they recycled was generated within the county. I'm sure TDEC will be looking at that just to see if it needs to be adjusted or not. But again, that's what was provided by the recycling folks.
Where's Greens?
It's on Highway 72, over by Crossroads.
And it's metal still?
Yeah, metals, cars.
Wow.
And we're coordinating, Steve and I are coordinating to contact the Del Conco company. They may have some reuse numbers that we can use. And we'll continue sending out surveys to companies all the way up until the end of April. So that number may well increase before your actual deadline.
If we show an increase in just our county recycling, I know Chris has been working on some of that too.
And I think in terms
Because
of
they're
what,
doing some more, we put some recycling at the senior center, some paper and cardboard recycling, so we've kind of got that going down there.
I think for the size of the county that we have and the efforts that Chris in particular puts in for those kind of things, I think we do really well.
So we need a motion on this to,
Yeah, so what the process is that the board has the opportunity to approve it, and then it goes, the chair gets to sign it, send it on to the mayor, and the mayor gets to sign it, and then it goes on to TDEC.
alright, so we need
Need a motion to approve it?
a motion to approve it.
Make a motion to approve.
Alright, Ms. Stevens with a motion to approve, do we need a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Terry with a second. Any more discussion? Alright, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed.
Did you say you had extra copies?
I do know, we'll leave them at the table back.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tim, really appreciate your efforts, and Shelby.
Yes, Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you, Shelby. And thank you, Sue, for everything. I owe you one.
It's a team effort.
I still owe you one. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to the next, which is our soil borrow map report. So you should have the maps.
Madam
Plus,
Chairman,
plus we have the large map, yes.
question.
Yes.
Why do we call this borrow? Kevin?
Borrow.
These guys are gonna explain the whole thing. They'll do better than I will.
So apologize for the small font. They're engineering plans, so you know how engineers are difficult to work with, me being one myself, so.
Well, I did get it cleaned up.
Yes, you did wonderful. I'm so glad you did that.
Yes.
So I'll probably just, David's so kind enough to be our model here. I'll just kind of point and kind of talk through the genesis of this plan. So this is something that the commission had asked that we produce as part of the contract amendment that's currently on the agenda. Also, this is something that for an expansion, this is something that we need to be able to show to TDEC where the soil to be used for development of the landfill is going to come from.
Larry, this is the excess soil they would intend to use.
I understand that, but there was some concession. It says it's borrowed. It was.
That's a technical term they call borrow
Yeah,
area.
it's called borrow.
Dirt, yeah, but-
Okay, I just want to make sure that that is clear,
Yeah.
that it's not borrowed.
Yes, yes, in that regard, yes,
Yes.
correct.
Well said, thanks.
Yes.
I have no idea where the term came from, but, so if y'all are kind of generally familiar with the layout of the property there, here we of course have the existing landfill, and then the proposed, kind of that piece of the kidney bean that goes out there, that's the proposed expansion. So north is up, on this map, and so there's this other piece of property over here, that's, the commission is sort of making available to take soil from there for operation of the landfill, and that's for building cells, for capping the landfill, and for our daily cover and intermediate cover as far as normal daily operations. So we have a pretty robust projection model that we use for all of our landfills, and the results of that are kind of over on the side here, so you can kind of see how we break it down for all the different types of soil that will be required.
And I'll just jump in real quick, just back to Larry's point for commission and those in the audience. The actual concession was in exchange for the commission allowing Republic to use some adjacent land for soil borrow. They have increased the host fee from 3.75 to 5.5%.
Right, thank you, yeah, great clarification, thank you for that. So a couple other things the commission wanted to make sure is that, you know, this is, it's sort of hard to read topographic maps, but you can see where this dotted line is right here, that's a ridge line. And so what the commission had asked for us to do is to leave that ridge line so it doesn't impact anything visually from any other location. And so if you think of it kind of like a peak, the soil is going to be excavated from this side, and this side is going to stay entirely the same with the trees not disturbed and that visual buffer not changed at all. So this is how we kind of put these plans together, is we chunk it out in phases, so each phase of development. So there's 5 different sheets kind of showing the phase of development. So the other piece that we're really focused on is there's an approved stream right here with a buffer, so we're going to not impact that existing stream and leave vegetative buffer there as well. So everything you see that we're proposing to excavate is moved up north of that stream. So that's kind of just the overall lay of the land when it comes to what these maps are showing. So first map, the darker contours, that's what those are. So those are elevation contours, just like a topographic map. Darker kind of shows that phase of excavation, and then everything that's shaded is stuff that's existing or not being changed during that phase of excavation. So this area up here, this larger area that we're looking at, is really from 2022 to 2026 timeline. So that's this first 4-year chunk. So what that shows is excavation First, really like excavation to the hillside, and then installation of a stormwater pond. So that's required for any soil borrow. TDEC requires that. And that's basically to knock out sediment that's generated from stormwater runoff before it's discharged from the site to meet our, and you all have a stormwater permit here at the facility. So there's requirements in there related to soil borrow activities. So really, it's just chunk by chunk here in 4-year increments. So this kind of shows the first cutting into the hillside, installation of the first stormwater control measure there.
I got a question before you move on to the next
Sure thing.
one. The little stream that we're talking about here,
Yes.
how are we gonna get across that?
I'm not exactly sure how we're going to get across that. We leave a buffer of 50 feet on either side. I think there's some, probably do a traverse with appropriately sized culverts and all of that.
Okay,
This is sort of a generalized plan, so that operational detail we'll figure out.
I have a question. How many acres, what size area are we talking about?
That's a great question.
I can't read this too little writing.
Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it's about 80 acres combined, but exactly what the breakdown of those two between each other, I don't know offhand.
So this area from the top of his hand, that area to that dark area we're talking about?
This area right here.
Just that area there, 80 acres?
No, I'm
No.
gonna say the total combined areas of the total amount that would be borrowed over the life of the landfill.
Is that a wet weather stream only, or is it a flowing stream?
It's an intermittent stream, so it's, yeah, it's not.
50-foot buffer on each side?
We put a 80-foot buffer on the stream just to leave it alone, but we put a 50-foot buffer up against the property lines. Is the
80-foot
requirement.
Total?
80-foot on either side.
Okay.
Yeah, either side, that's correct. And then there's a 50-foot buffer requirement up against the property lines as well.
And when you start excavating, when you start taking soil from this area, how deep are you going to, how deep is it gonna be?
This particular, at the base of the stormwater pond, it's about 30 feet of total excavation there at the base. And it varies a little bit as we go up that slope. It tends to get a little bit deeper as we go.
Well, I would have a problem disturbing the little creek. I hope that we address that thoroughly.
I'm sure that's gonna be a major component for TDEC and the.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's an intermittent stream, so it's not like a fully flowing water of the United States, not a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer requirement, but it's just something that we like to preserve the natural drainage features of the facility for sure.
So what you're saying is you will be putting in some kind of stormwater drain so you can cross?
That's right. Yep, exactly.
Is this going to require a modification of stormwater permit?
So when the expansion permit application goes in, that'll have a comprehensive overhaul of our existing stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is sort of the foundational document of the industrial stormwater discharge permit through TDEC. And so yes, it will, this is one part of it, but again, all of the landfill operations, the stormwater discharge off of the final cover system, perimeter drainage, all of those different components that go into operating a effective environmentally responsible landfill will be part of that plan. Yep. So the rest of the figures are really just kind of 4-year increments again, where we just sort of march our way into that hillside step by step. So this next one, and this is, you can see on the bottom, this is sheet 3 of 5 that we're looking at here, number 3. We're looking at 2026 to 2030. Each section is about 260,000 yards. So that's how much we're progressing through in a 4-year increment. And so the next one I think is the one that you would be more interested in, and that's sheet 5. So this kind of shows us maxing out that designated area, taking into account the directive here from the commission, where we don't so that line just exactly hits the ridge line. So what we have overall, what we're left with is a nice, really a 3-to-1 slope, which is a very common grade of slope used all over in road normal construction, and then a 10% grade into a 2% grade. So as it kind of falls, or 20% grade, excuse me, as it kind of falls. So it's a very gradual grade down to that pond, and that all would be fully vegetated with temporary and final vegetation. And again, that requirement is included in the contract amendment that's in front of you tonight to have that full and final vegetation. Also required in the contract amendment is that we have an approved erosion and sediment control plan with TDEC, which we are required to do. So that'll all be included in this as well. So the other piece to this is once this area is kind of finished, we'll move over to this area south of there. Again, installing a new sedimentation pond to control stormwater runoff. And then we kind of just move into the final phase, which is 2034 to 2038. And that takes us through the proposed life of the landfill, and then also gets us through, so that's that little final chunk right there.
Are the sedimentation basins to be eventually totally removed?
I think the sedimentation basins typically are left in place, so it turns into a nice little water feature, because that whole area is graded to drain into that one low spot, and then we have a design outlet feature from there. So in almost all cases, I suppose you can come back in and backfill the sedimentation basin and have it sheet flow off, but from a stormwater design standpoint, we typically leave those in place.
Is that a lined settlement pond?
Is not lined. Is not lined. It's a soil bottom typically with vegetation on the sides.
It would probably turn into a wetland, I would imagine.
Yeah, and oftentimes they do. Animals wildlife loves these sedimentation ponds. Yeah, sure do.
Now, we're very cursed with coyotes and buzzards down there right now.
Yeah.
In your settlement pond.
Yeah, and some seagulls also, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, there's a few of them
Yeah,
too.
yeah, they have a knack for finding landfills. They certainly do.
What size will the sediment pond be approximately?
Are like, as far as gallons or acres or?
Acres.
I don't have a size of that sediment pond immediately offhand. All these sediment ponds are gonna be designed to handle a certain amount of retention to drop out the sediment that's run off. So those are all engineering calculations and sized appropriately for their required use.
It's
I can certainly
all TDEC approved.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah, this is gonna be one little tiny part of the whole solid waste, or the whole stormwater component of the entire solid waste engineering package, which all goes into TDEC for their full review and approval. And then, we also have compliance requirements, so we'll have stormwater sampling on a quarterly basis from each of those locations, as well as inspections from TDEC to make sure that that's being complied with on a monthly basis.
You'll still maintain your other settlement pond that's up there present day, right?
We sure will,
And then, cause that'll be on down below this new construction.
absolutely.
Which is what we do now at Poplar Springs.
Yeah,
We submit all those,
unfortunately.
Yeah, the
submit
DMRs,
those.
yeah.
Can you
Sample
envision any opportunities for handling green waste in those kinds of borrow pit areas?
What I think about green waste is it's a great opportunity to turn it into compost. So, I think that's the direction the industry is probably going, as opposed to the open burn sort of style of managing green waste. So, my impression is that's probably the better use for them, and let these kind of go back into their natural state, and act as their stormwater control features.
So like you said, this is all, will be approved by TDEC, submitted to TDEC.
Yes, ma'am.
And the maps, I had those maps done down at trustee's office and property assessor's office, I'm sorry. So those maps will be at the county building for anyone to take a look at. They are large, they are dated, correct?
Yes, ma'am, they're dated.
Thank you.
Very large. A couple quick follow-ups. These will be an exhibit to the proposed amendment, correct?
That's correct.
So that'll be referenced within the contract amendment document as an exhibit showing the preliminary plan subject to TDEC approval. So that's kind of the purpose of why we're doing this, because it would be memorialized within the contract. And then just some backup summary points. You're going to leave the ridge line up there to the northwest.
Yes.
And nothing will be taken on the other side of the ridge line heading towards the northwest as you head in that direction.
Correct.
So in terms of view shed, there should be no change from anything in the northwest and westerly direction.
That is correct.
What about access roads? Do you have any idea where those are gonna go in order to get the soil out?
You know, we're envisioning running those through the 50-foot buffers along the property line, so we're allowed to put access roads in that range. So that's where I would envision those go at this time, but that level of detail we just haven't quite gotten there yet.
Which probably TDEC will come back and look at your plans and they'll be there to witness and say, use the 50-foot.
Yeah.
And your max grade throughout the entire plan in both of the distinct areas is 20 degrees, is that correct?
It's a 3-to-1 slope, so that's three horizontal to 1 vertical foot. So that's kind of that's the maximum slopes, and then the rest of that comes down to a 10% and then a 20% slope. So 10% slope is what you can drive a fully loaded semi up gravel when it's wet. If that gives you kind of a feel, so it's very, very gradual. And 3-to-1 is the extremely common use. TDOT uses it all the time. The county will use it all the time in their business for all construction slopes. So it will not be like a sheer wall and something that looks like an eyesore. It will definitely be a nicely shaped vegetation.
Won't be a 30-foot hole,
That's absolutely correct. No, it will not be a 30-foot hole.
because that was one of the concerns from the public, was a 30-foot hole.
Yeah, and left unusable for you
Yeah,
after the fact,
right.
right? And that's a problem.
And there will be vegetation.
There will be, yep.
What happens to the vegetation that's there as you start? Where does that all go?
So we typically will strip topsoil off and stockpile it off and use that on final slope. So as we'll create a separate stockpile of that. Oftentimes the vegetation will die in that process, but will sort of compost itself and its nutrients into that soil and stockpile that. So as we're completing final cover projects or finishing exterior slopes, we'll reuse that material out there and get that nice vegetative growth.
On the slopes and other areas, after you have the vegetation, is it possible for other beneficial use? Could you put solar or other, something on some of those slopes or in those areas?
Sure, yeah. South facing slope like that, a big open space. We've seen a lot of natural programs. So, we get moving in with different types of birds, like a purple martin houses or things like that, where people sort of create habitats, partnership with Ducks Unlimited or Pheasants Unlimited, where you have a water feature there after people are kind of moved off. Those are options. We've seen a lot of things like that happen. But yeah, solar or other alternative would absolutely be viable there.
About Ducks Unlimited doing those things.
I think Ty wants a mountain bike park here, don't you, Ty?
Perfect. Flow trail. There you go. Yes. Perfect.
And you still get your buffer.
As long as we got the buffer.
Definitely.
Come down the hill.
I have a question, but it's not for them. It's for the Solid Waste Commission. Are we going to notify the neighbors to let them know that of our plans, so we can get some feedback from them if they have any concerns?
So TDEC will be doing a public hearing, well, I'm assuming TDEC will do a public hearing for the landfill expansion, and that this will be part of it. If you think there should be something additional, I'll let you.
Well, I just think that we should be proactive and notify them before we go to the permit process, only as a courtesy because they've been there, and I think they would want to know what's going on. just neighbor to neighbor, this is what we're doing. If you have any concerns, we'd like to hear from you.
I would say that'll be part of what TDEC does too, when they have a public hearing. That will be the time for those neighbors to come forward. I'm sure that we can let them know, and Larry can let people know in his area. Correct, Larry?
Sure.
That we have a public
I'm done.
notice for TDEC. So, all right, any more questions? Those maps will be at the county office. And they will be included in anything with the amendment too. We'll move on to my chairman report real quick. And I have a couple of invoices. We have our last month's payroll invoice. I got it signed. I didn't have Larry's signature on it, so it kicked it right back to me. So I've got 2 signatures for that. And then we have the News Herald. I had a question about this because we paid 1 News Herald invoice last month. Tracy double checked this and she's got another invoice to pull on paying our last News Herald invoice. So if anybody wants to look at those, I figure that would interest everybody. All right. Last time we met, on Chairman's report on number 2, we had talked about bylaw change on our publication of meetings. And in our last time, according to our bylaws, we had to discuss it, and then we came and bring it back for another discussion and voting on this. I asked Kevin to look at his notes about our wording on this, because we have discussed the fact that in our bylaws, it strictly says the Loudon News Herald.
Right.
Which really puts us in a bind, considering that the News Herald is only published once a week now. He did tell me that he would be glad to make sure that they update the website so we can get it on their website and Facebook page quicker. But we don't even have that listed or anything of doing electronic or otherwise in our bylaws.
So what was proposed during discussion last month was, instead of written notice delivered to the News Herald, it be written notice delivered to a newspaper of general circulation in Loudon County, which broadens your opportunities to put it in other newspapers and media within Loudon County. Again, a main issue there is the schedule of the News Herald, and if you're not on the right date for circulation, you miss their deadline or don't fit within their deadline, then you lose that opportunity. And so, we've had, in particular in the last number of months, we've had special called meetings and other meetings that we need to notice for the Sunshine Law, but it makes it very difficult when you just have one opportunity.
And I would propose that if we added something to that we would, and I think we discussed this last time too, maybe even put those notices on our county website where we put our minutes and our agendas and things like that, so that we could do the notice there.
So would you like it to be both of them in the bylaws?
Don't you think that would, I'm asking the board.
I think that would be very beneficial. There's already a spot for upcoming events, I believe, on the county website.
Yes.
So
And they've got a calendar.
Yeah, the calendar and upcoming events.
I think as long as you keep it both electronically and hard copy, because believe it or not, there's still people out there that don't.
Oh, yeah, I agree, we need to keep it hard copy too, so, you know.
And we may still continue with the News Herald, but this just gives us an alternative potentially, depending upon timing.
Yes. Alright, so how do we need to word? Because you will have to bring the,
Yes, so what I will prepare it and, written notice delivered, to a newspaper of general circulation in Loudon County and notification on the county website.
What is the other newspapers that y'all think we read here?
we don't, we have the Daily Digest, which is just a 3 or 4 page, short little newspaper. And
It
besides
has all the
that,
arrest records.
that has all the arrest records.
It's the hot news, yeah.
Which is probably a lot that people buy, you know.
That's printed daily.
Yes, and it
It's
is
taking
printed
the
daily.
place of your daily newspaper.
Yeah.
in that
No, it's only printed 3 times a week, 3 times. And sometimes not at all.
But the title is daily.
Huh?
The title is daily something.
Daily
Well,
edition.
wording it like
Daily
you're
right
talking,
now.
wording it like you're talking to with one of the newspapers, I think gives us the flexibility. If we miss a cutoff on one, we still got the other one. I think that needs to be brought.
Or if the News Herald were to go out of business, we wouldn't have anywhere to post anything, because that's all that we're allowed to post to.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and you're not specifically saying News Herald.
I like the way you worded it.
Yes.
Okay, so we can bring that back.
No,
Next one.
we
We're ready.
did it.
Yeah, we did discuss it, so I guess we technically can do it
We
this.
discussed it last month and what we wanted to say in it, we had to bring it back this time and make sure that we had the wording in there for the vote. So we do need a motion. I mean,
do you have to
Make
say
a
all?
motion. Go ahead,
No,
ladies
I
first.
said, do we have to say all that in the motion?
What Kevin said.
Yeah, we'll get it.
no, we'll let Kevin read it and make the motion.
The motion would be to amend section 3, Article 3, section 3 for notice in the bylaws to provide that notification of all meetings, including special meetings, shall be given by a written notice delivered to a newspaper of general circulation in Loudon County and notification on the Loudon County website. You good with that, Tim?
Alright, sounds good to me, I'll second that motion.
Did you second or make?
I think you made the motion.
You made the motion.
No.
He's,
He made the motion.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All
I
right.
just asked a question.
Okay.
Kidding.
so Larry makes the motion,
Made the motion, Tammy seconded
and we gave it a second. Alright,
Still have some questions.
it.
well, since it is a bylaw change, we'll do a roll call vote. If there's no more discussion.
All right. Jamison,
Aye.
Bivens,
Aye.
Field,
Aye.
Chair,
Aye.
Small,
Aye.
Hunter,
Aye.
Stewart.
Aye.
Alright, motion passes. Thank you, and I do encourage you to look at those bylaws and see if there is anything else that at a later date that we need to take a look at and make any updates or changes. How long are those bylaws? What year?
From the beginning,
From the very beginning? Okay.
I think there are a couple minor changes.
93?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's about
That's
right.
all right.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
may I get a copy of this when you prepare
Yes.
it? Because
I will prepare it for the next meeting, have the chair sign it, and then we'll put it on the
Okay.
website.
I still haven't been able to get the one that's supposed to be on the website, it's not there, or I couldn't find it. So if I could get a signed copy of that
Put
one
that on the
too.
website, didn't
gave it to,
I don't think they ever put it on the website.
I gave it to Anita to put on there, so.
Okay.
You might as well make a note to send me an extra
Yeah,
one, and
I'll
I
do
will
that.
make sure that is
Thank you.
done again. I have on here too, it says host security fee payments. It was brought to my attention at a county commission meeting that Ms. Hunter came and informs county commission that our host and security fee payments were behind a month. Well, that's the first I've heard of it, and I would ask Ms. Hunter that if you were aware there was a situation going on with this, I wish you had taken some initiative, since you are on this board, to either contact them or contact someone so that they could go ahead and get it taken care of. Instead, I find out this at the county commission meeting, that there is a situation. I had a chance to talk to Tracy Blair about it. She was a little bit unaware of the situation also. So after doing a little research on it, she and I got together and we talked, and I talked to the trustee's office. There was a breakdown in communication too. The trustee's office was getting our host and security fees 1 month, and then maybe the next month, the finance office was getting our security and host fees. And they were contacting each other and letting each other know, but there was still some breakdown in communication. After speaking to David about the situation, David helped, was very good about getting all this taken care of. We got the communication straightened out. The payments are going straight to the trustee's office. There was a little change, if I'm correct, David, in the finance department with you all too.
We were operating with an interim business unit finance manager right now. We missed what would have been a February payment. That has been caught up. The March payment is also being expedited as we speak to the trustee's office. So both payments will be in the trustee's office hopefully later this week and caught up.
Yes, and I contacted the trustee. He said he would let me know and confirm with me when those payments were in at the trustee's office. So we do have it straightened out now, that all those payments will be going to the trustee's office and things were taken care of. So all it took was a little initiative to make a phone call, to talk to David. David got on it. There's a problem, Kelly, we'll take care of it. They took care of it and things were fine once we have that now taken care of. I did get an email from David stating that this has been taken care of. Right?
I would like to address this since I was mentioned.
That's fine, go right ahead.
A number of months ago, when there was a monthly financial and there was no host and security fees, I think for 2 months, I specifically requested to find out what was going on. And I think
We did find out that one of that situation was the fact that we had a missed meeting, was one of those situations where we did not get the host and security fees, or if you're talking about the financial statement, Tracy forgot that we had a meeting that month and did not get that paperwork to us.
Yeah, I remember all of that, but this had to do with 2 months specifically that didn't have anything to do with that. So I asked, started asking questions, and I found out from the trustee's office that it was late. So, that's neither here nor there, but I have since been keeping track of it. As of this morning, we still have not been paid for the March 3rd letter that shows.
And he just stated that we understood that. David and I just got all of this
I understand
straightened
that,
out
but
yesterday, and yesterday they were in the process of expediting those payments over there, and they have to be mailed directly to them and sent to them.
Well, one concern that the trustee's office had, at least with me anyway, was that they would like a copy of the letter sent. In previous months, they have received the letter, so when they do get a check, they have an actual breakdown. So they were requesting the letter that we received, that it be included with the payment of the check. So they
And
have a
that is
breakdown.
normally in that, Because
Yes, we
that's
did.
where Tracy and I had the communication. See, some of those checks were going to the finance office and some were going to the trustee's office, and there is a letter attached to them when they come. And when they were at the finance office, the trustee's office didn't see the letter and didn't know anything but the amount. The same happened when the trustee's office gets it, they keep the letter, and Tracy never sees the letter that goes along with them.
Disappearing letters.
No,
Disappearing letters.
disappearing letters. I mean, all the trustee does is call and report, the amount to the finance department. So,
Well, that's one reason why I wanted a provision in the contract that specifies when we're supposed to get paid and when we should expect payment. So,
what does it say in our contract now?
currently says nothing in our
Yeah, I don't think it has.
Nothing, zero.
Pay by date.
No, it doesn't have a specific date by date, but the proposed amendment does have language.
You know, off the top of your head, what it says in our proposed amendment?
The 20th of the month.
20th, I believe, without a potential late fee as well.
Okay. So,
5% late charge.
so I don't see that we're gonna have any more issues with getting it in either. Do you, David?
No, ma'am, after that conversation with you, our finance people now know to have a physical address, and that payment will be mailed directly to the trustee's office, to the attention of the trustee.
And under the proposed amendment, a 5% late charge is a legitimate penalty.
I just
Will be
think,
some incentive.
I just feel like that, Ms. Hunter, you are on this board, and this is something that if you were aware of the situation was happening with them, and that you could have contacted them and had an opportunity to talk to them about this. I mean, going directly to county commission, and I'm sitting there blindsided, and I knew nothing about what was going on either. So, I mean, county commission isn't exactly the ones in charge of the solid waste board or in charge of making sure that we are meeting our obligations, or Republic is meeting their obligations to us. I would just ask that if there is a situation that occurs and you being on this board, that you take initiative to, you know, take care of the situation also. So, as we go on to, Republic Hauling Company issues, I found out at the same meeting that there were still some issues with getting the trash picked up on time, or even picked up.
Mr. Chairman, why is the hauling issue coming before this commission? It's a separate deal altogether, that they have contracts with different identities. It's great that we as a commission help them with those issues and point them to the right people, but this commission getting directly involved in the hauling issues, I don't agree with.
Well, I got blindsided at the county commission meeting about that issue again too. I thought it was a one-time issue, and therefore I had county commissioners on the board that are saying, oh my goodness, if they can't even pick up the trash, then what are we even talking about an amendment to contract with them?
They need to understand.
And I did explain to them that the hauling company is separate from running the landfill. That is a hard thing to get them to understand.
Well, it's the bottom line, it is a contract that is in place, same way is our contract. Doesn't say anything about discussion of hauling garbage.
But also with that being said, that the hauling company does have a contract like with the county to pick up the
Yes,
garbage
yes.
and have it on time. So I did feel an obligation to, that there was a situation, us being the solid waste board, that the situation needed to be handled and taken care of. I thought several months ago that I had taken care of that situation and I had talked to the hauling company, and evidently we didn't get everything straightened out. So therefore, I went back again with David's help again, and we tracked down the situation on the pickup. Susan Husky also helped me, along with Mike Guerin helped me. The schools are having a situation where the trash was not being picked up. They started a spreadsheet of when that was happening. After much discussion, Susan Husky was able to figure out and find out that there were several different times that the trash was not being picked up, so they kept that. Susan Husky asked that since the trash was not picked up on time, that they be refunded $700 and something for the missed pickups. It seems as that refund, after much discussion with them, that refund did not get posted. 3 months into it, Susan Husky was still having a problem. There were still, just one other time that the pickup, I have it on my chart here, I think it's just one
There
other
was
time.
only one pickup missed in the month of March, on March 28th,
Yes,
which from a hauling perspective is exemplary service for that kind of service in this marketplace. One miss in the month of March was pretty good. Kelly spoke with me Friday evening. Don't mean to speak for you, ma'am, I'm sorry.
that's
You
all.
spoke with me Friday evening about the credit. We got that taken care of first thing Monday. And there was also some late charges that were taken care of, and we got those taken care of in the same day, and that account has been cleared, and everything's taken care of on the hauling side now.
Yes, and there was a letter sent, and we took care of the letter sent, that their hauling was going to be suspended.
How did the county commission become aware of this problem? Who?
Ms. Hunter
Ms.
brought
Hunter.
it.
I was contacted by the schools.
Okay.
And my
Shouldn't the schools handle their own, I mean, it's a contract with the schools. The schools have counsel, the schools should be handling their we don't enforce their contract, just like they don't enforce ours.
That's the problem, Mr. Stevens. The contract in itself is a problem between the county and the schools and waste services. And they're going to be addressing that issue because according to the purchasing director, in 2011, they put the contract for garbage out to bid. When they rebid it in 2016, they had 3 or 4 different vendors said that they would not bid on it because Santec controlled the tipping fee and they felt that it was not competitive. They were not allowed to, have a lower tipping fee than Santec was willing to give them, so they refused to participate.
So therefore, we've addressed that issue in the amendment too. We've addressed the issue of now that we will be the lowest tipping fee. So therefore, if they contract with a vendor, then that vendor is hauling trash into the landfill for the county or for the schools, they will receive that lowest tipping fee. Susan Husky and I also talked about that. I wanted to double check on this, so I did check with Lenore City because Lenore City is contracting with Brewster's to haul. They are getting their rate, the entity rate, when Brewster's hauls in their trash.
Yes.
So the language in the contract says that if the entity will receive the lowest tipping fee, correct?
That's correct.
So after talking to Susan Husky about it, I told her, I said, Brewster's is hauling for Lenore City, they are getting the lowest tipping fee. How do we do it on our side? It can be done, they have to make a separate, whoever she gets, whoever does it, if they continue, whatever, they have to have a separate account set up just for.
So if any of the other vendors whether it's WCI, Waste Management, whatever, whoever puts a bid, they're going to get the same tipping fee as,
It will have to fall under,
They have to haul the stakeholders' material.
Right, exactly, and they have to demonstrate that.
They have to demonstrate that in order to get this rate, stakeholder rate.
correct? Correct, that's how they did it with Brewster's and Lenore City.
well, that was what was outstanding, was that bid, because the schools wanted a new bid that specifies that they themselves, like Lenore City, they have to pick it up at a certain day, a certain time, and I think, didn't you say, JJ, they picked theirs up, what, for the schools, do you know?
It is an everyday pickup
An everyday pickup.
at the high schools and elementary and middle school. That is an everyday pickup there.
And see, our contract isn't written like that, and theirs specifies it's supposed to be picked up by a certain time
Whose
also.
contract?
Yeah, it's not-
It's nothing like that, I mean,
Wait, whose contract is
Well,
it
I'm
written like
talking
that?
about, I'm talking about
She's
a
talking about schools.
contract that has to do with hauling
Let's-
garbage.
That's the
narrow
school's
it.
contract.
Let's get on key, it's seven,
That
it's
is,
7:30. We've
you're
been
asking
spending
me
an hour and a half.
why I got involved, and I'm telling you that the schools contacted me and asked me about, could I help with the garbage situation? I said, yes, that's all.
the only thing I would ask of you is you should have made reference to whoever is responsible for the contract. That needs to be who's working it.
Well, I went to the county commission, they're responsible for their own contract, that's all.
That's,
The county commission is responsible for their contract when it comes to garbage hauling, that's all.
well,
anyway,
after
that's the
talking
reason
with,
why I was there.
after talking with Susan Husky about it and explaining some things to her, we got the credit taken care of. I suggested Susan Husky to contact JJ, to contact you all about seeing how you all did your contract. If there is an issue, then they can do it that way with their contract, and maybe they can look at your all's example of what we need to do.
Yes.
Might say one other thing, as every town, county in the United States we went through COVID, the crisis. And Santec Republic is no different than anybody else's. Their services was interrupted by shortage of drivers. I deal with it every day, okay? I need 30 drivers. They probably need 10 right now. They can knock it up. Huh?
Or more.
Or more. But my point is, during this time of crisis that we've had, there's gonna be a little leniency. They have made it up in financial concessions, and I would think that would be well noted of them.
Well, and on that note, with that, Commissioner Cullen was getting just, and you were too, getting just rated from everyone at Telco Village because the hauling company had missed picking up at Telco Village on certain days. And there was no understanding there because they had a truck go down, and they were saying that because they had such a big company, why didn't they have more trucks? And
But
so
again,
Commissioner Cullen,
different issues.
I know it, but Commissioner Cullen was,
not involving us and this committee.
yes, but that is a hard thing to get the commission to understand.
So
And they hear about solid waste every week too.
I would request for Shelby's sake, right now, that we tell her what we would like to see in the minutes concerning this item, because, I mean, I
Nothing.
I wouldn't know what
Nobody's
to
made a
write.
motion.
No, there's no
There
action.
shouldn't be anything.
Yeah.
okay.
No action or motion. Okay? All right, and we'll move on to the attorney's report.
Okay, basically, that brings us back to where we are on the contract amendment. After our special meeting, call was at the end of February, We had some proposed red line changes that we made to the Second Amendment. We sent those to Republic for review and comment. Kelly and I had some meetings and Zoom conferences. I had a phone call, additional conferences with their attorneys, and ultimately they followed up with this latest red line response to our proposal. All of their red line comments are items that we discussed collectively, and think we found consensus on the language. Nothing in this red line is outside of what we discussed with them or what we felt we found a reasonable middle ground on certain language. A lot of it was, I think the most important, some of the, on the first couple pages, you'll see some comments about authorization and what's appealable and non-appealable in a minor permit or major permit modification. Nothing really of substance that changed there other than some language with some minor details. Really, I think probably the biggest issue that we really talked through and will represent somewhat of a change is when you get to the tipping fees in section 10.3. And this was something we spent a lot of time about discussing. Obviously, we had already put in a provision that they call the favored nations rate, meaning the stakeholders will get the lowest rate of any customer at the landfill. They also wanted to set some rates in the contract, and they wanted some latitude to provide lower rates for volume discount users. Now, in the past, they had just full authority to discount anything under the contract to any rate if it was a volume or special waste. And that led to problems when we had significantly discounted rates well below $20 that was using up airspace but not providing sufficient revenue. So what we did are a few things. One, we kept in place, if you look on page 10, we set the area governmental user tipping fee at $23.58, which we've already discussed, per ton excluding governmental fees, taxes, and surcharges. And what that actually represents, although it is a slight increase from what it's been, it's actually less than they were capable of charging because they didn't apply CPI adjustments for the past number of years while we were undergoing these discussions. Technically, they could probably be charging the governmental users close to $26 a ton. So this was, again, a further concession from them, reducing what they could technically charge under the existing contract. So that sets the floor for the governmental users. They will be the lowest tipping fee. No one else can be lower. Then the governmental tipping fee will go up with annual CPI adjustments commencing each and every year after execution of this agreement. They also wanted some latitude to lower, to set lower tipping fees for volume users or special waste. But our position was we don't want them much lower, and we certainly don't want them anywhere near the governmental rate. And so the proposal that they put on the floor is that they would provide that no special waste or volume user can get a rate below $26 a ton, which is actually significantly increased beyond what certain special users have been getting in recent history. And so the concept, and we share this with Republic, is we all want to increase the tipping fees. And so what they wanted to put in is they are going to set the gate rate at $45, which is going to be a major increase and is more consistent with what the market really is in East Tennessee. We have been vastly lower on a gate rate than most everywhere else around. So they are setting the gate rate at $45. They have the right for volume users and special waste to set a rate anywhere between $26 and $45. And then we have our stakeholder rate at $23.58. So I think this, there's been concerns about what setting the tipping fee and what control we have. Now we're setting it by contract, and we give them a little bit of latitude to work in, but we're providing what it can and can't be. And if they want any change outside of those parameters, they need to come to us for written approval. So I think this is a really good improvement. It gives, it gives them a little bit of latitude to do business. It's going to set our floor for tipping fees outside the governmental users much higher than it's been, and that's good for both. That's good for both parties to increase the revenue.
Kevin, can you speak to the amendment's impact on Loudon Utilities wastewater treatment plant, the sludge produced there and hauled to the landfill?
I think he's got that answer back there.
Governmental use.
I think it's good, yeah. That was I thought it was going to be, it's a governmental rate.
You currently charge the governmental rate, so it's on the sludge as well.
Is that, but, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, if sludge desired and ground cover, and it could be a special rate, could the Loudon Utilities wastewater treatment plant, which serves the village and all us as water users, be exempted from the rule if it benefits the citizens of the governmental entities?
I think it would be charged at the stakeholder rate as a baseline. If for some reason, it's determined that it can be used at the landfill for beneficial
I can
use.
see it defined as, sludge defined as special waste, another sludge coming from the wastewater treatment plant. If there was a discount, we would hate to not be eligible for that.
Is there been any room or latitude for special stuff that the landfill could use
Sludge is not a beneficial use of the landfill.
for an alternative cover
No, not approvable by TDEC.
by TDEC?
Yeah, so that's kind of the problem. We have had programs with other
Yeah.
types of waste that can be daily cover, and we give them a much reduced rate if it's beneficial.
I'm out of my league, and I
Yeah.
just saw where
Could it
sludge
be,
at one point in the documentation was referred to as a special waste. And I
could,
wanted to ask
That's a
the
good
question, but thank you.
Good question.
could such waste be used in revegetating the borrow pit area when that time comes?
So, biosolids are a complex waste that need to be disposed in a proper sanitary landfill environment. There's microorganisms and biology, toxins, and all sorts of other byproducts from municipal wastewater treatment.
If it's Class A sludge?
Well, if it's Class A sludge, then you can maybe mix it with lime and use it for land application in certain environments. That's a totally different business that we're not in, but certainly if there's a vendor here that would use that as an option.
So yeah, certainly the highest that any governmental user would pay is the governmental rate at $23.58. In terms of any of the other revisions, they accepted our proposal relative to fixing a deadline for payment on the 20th of each month. They agreed to a late fee of 5% if not paid in time. Otherwise, they really have accepted all of the substantive revisions that we put in place. So I'm happy to address any questions. But I think they have taken what we had proposed from our special session and have incorporated nearly all of those with a few minor comments. And I think really, we're in a position that we've kind of reached our final negotiating point. Again, we have discussed a desire to provide a copy of this to our stakeholders. I don't anticipate that any of our stakeholders will vote, nor do they need to vote. This is something that we as a commission can approve and are authorized and charged with approval. But I think we all would agree as a courtesy before we formally approve and execute anything, we should at least give the stakeholders an opportunity to comment, ask questions, have their counsel review as well, of course. So obviously I can address any specific questions about the agreement itself. Otherwise, the chair and I have discussed the concept that we could entertain a motion tonight to accept the document for disclosure to our stakeholders, give the stakeholders 30 days or whatever the commission deems fit to review, ask questions, etc., at which point this would come back to the commission for a final approval if so desired.
I have a question. With regards to the cash customers, they are being charged the current gate rate, is that correct? So we're talking about, with the $1.25, we're talking about going from $30 to $45? Is that what we're talking about?
That's correct.
Which is in line.
Well, I understand that we're not, we're way below, and I think I've said that for years.
That's why Rome County wants to bring their trash over here.
Well, of course,
And they're
that's why
making money.
everybody wants to bring their
They're
trash.
making money coming over here with their trash.
I guess the only concern that I have is that we have a lot of people that use the landfill, and for that big of an increase, I think we're gonna have a lot of unhappy customers out there.
And I'm gonna say that one of the reasons that we increased this was per request by this council, because they didn't want any out of county trash. And we are the lowest in the area,
Well, there's,
and that was the reason that was sent forth, and that was one of your strongest points.
well, but we're still talking about contracts that Waste Services has with their companies, with their various customers. They're not gonna see that kind of an increase.
Where are they gonna go?
Well, they're under contract. My question is, I think that if we're going to do this, I think that at the very least, we should let the community know that it's coming, so we can have some input. I guess I go back to public input. And
this
customer-
is where public
We
input
did.
happens, and you see the citizens that are here every
Well, I
time
don't
we
think
have
they
these
know that
meetings.
there's gonna be a $15 increase either. Tell them that. Tell the person that went and picked up the carpet off redid their living room, and they're gonna take a bunch of carpet to the landfill, or they had a small demolition project in their home, and they've done it before, and they're going back to the landfill, and they're going to be hit with sticker shock. And I think that at the very least, we should tell them what's going on.
Well, you know what we're dealing with in Greenback too. You heard Satterfield, what they're dealing with. They're coming from Blount County, bringing their trash over to our convenience center.
Because it's convenient.
And
It's free.
because
To
it's
this matter,
free.
to this matter here, we're still gonna have our $7 cash customer rates for the people that have the carpet.
Okay,
This fee is gonna be for the out of towners that comes from the other side of Knoxville with the dump trailers. But the citizens of Loudon County keeps coming in with their cars, it's still a $7 rate. It's not a $45 rate to them, it's a $45 rate per ton per the outside customers.
okay, well,
So it's really not gonna affect this
I'm glad
community.
you're clarifying that, because I could see some people being really unhappy if they did a home project and had to take quite a bit of construction waste down there to be hit with a big bill.
And that still varies on how much they bring. It's just gonna stop some of the larger customers coming in from out of county with the larger amount of tons. So it's not really gonna affect the Loudon County, city.
But realistically, if somebody's doing a home project and has 2 tons of waste, paying an extra $30 in a big project these days is a bargain.
Folks, I go down there and I dump in the landfill, and I pay the gate rate. I pay the gate rate personally, and I pay it from our business.
Well, one complaint that Coach Satterfield also said was that the convenience center is doing what the other convenience centers do not do. They're accepting construction debris and waste, which
I addressed that with Chris.
that isn't,
I
that isn't done in Lenore City. We're not allowed to do
I
that.
addressed it with Chris, and Chris said that he has someone over there that feels sorry for certain people that come in there, and he'll let them bring it in, and that he is trying to put a stop to that happening. But he says one of his employees that continues to let that happen. So he's trying to break that. But his main concern is, Coach Satterfield has said, is their main concern is all these Blount County people coming in and bringing their trash over and getting it for free, dumping it right there, and then it cost us 21 something to haul it out here to the landfill.
And obviously, you know,
And Blount County people are not paying a thing.
we'll make the adjustments at the gate on cash customers, as you mentioned. But the bigger picture is this rate has to change, and it has to change dramatically, because we're so far below market rate and the community rate, and that's why we got in a hole to begin with. So, you know, our revenue will go up significantly if we start seeing tipping gate rates at $45. And it's going to be better for the county. You know, an amendment takes away any shortfall, and any additional money is just money towards whatever this commission desires to do in the future.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we take our red line copy, get it in a formal, presentable fashion, get it to our stakeholders for informative purposes, and I would like to take at least 60 days to get this done before we call for a formal vote with our vendor.
I'm afraid it'll probably take that with their meetings, the way they're going to intertwine. It's the problem that came into last time, that we had to push it back another month. The next meeting that it can be brought up at for, I'm sorry, I'm gonna second his motion.
Thank you.
The next meeting for Loudon City Council that this can be brought up in is going to be our workshop, which will be held on May 9th at 6:30 right here in this building.
Okay.
Do the rest of you know when your meetings are the next workshops that this could be held at for county commission and city of Lenore City?
My county commission workshop is
Next
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
Isn't your workshop
And I
the third?
will be going to training, so
Third Monday?
When's the next one?
I'm looking at Larry.
17th?
Huh?
I'm looking at Larry.
April 18th is the next commission workshop.
It's next Tuesday.
That's April 18th is a Monday.
It'll be 19.
I think, and again, we're going to our stakeholders as an informative that what we're doing. We've making a decision, and we value their input. But again, we're notified. So do you have to go to the workshop in order to do this? Can you not just as a report on their monthly meeting?
I wouldn't wanna do that with the city, but our workshop falls before the next
Gotcha.
meeting of this.
I'm
I
gonna
just
do it
wouldn't-
for a workshop. I'm gonna
Workshop.
go ahead and send it, give it to him for a workshop.
Okay,
You get more citizens that'll come to a workshop than a meeting.
okay.
It's also more loosely structured in terms of having discussions about stuff.
It is.
Kevin, I got a question for you on the contract. So on page 9, section, I guess it's 7, whatever, item C, about notwithstanding the foregoing, the contractor may from time to time request written permission petition to substitute the methods interests for the financial assurance. So my question is, we're gonna approve it in writing, but it shall not be unreasonably withheld, delayed, or conditioned. So if they propose some kind of a different financial vehicle, this looks to me like we can't decide we don't like the look of that financial vehicle, and I'm just wondering if, could you help me understand that?
Yeah, and that's, ultimately, TDEC is the arbiter of what's an acceptable financial vehicle. You know, and the TDEC approves performance bonds, TDEC approves financial assurance from the county. We don't know what TDEC may or may not approve in the future. That's a fair point, though. If we are dead set on a performance bond, which is the expectation in the agreement, we could propose a final tweak back on that language.
So my concern is that, I mean, Republic is a pretty large outfit. I mean, the amount of money they're spending for bonding has got to be humongous. You know, if they get some kind of a idea that they could,
Roll over the bond with something
well, have
else.
some other kind of instrument, like, you know, post a certain amount of money in a bank someplace.
Right.
And my concern is that the liability that they've got on their books, if they, you know, something happened dramatically from a financial standpoint, the liability they have is humongous in terms of all the landfills that they operate and the potential closure costs. So again, I like the bond because it's essentially an insurance policy. And I'm just wondering if the language in terms of it being not to be unreasonably withheld, delayed, or conditioned, essentially they give us something we have to abide by. That's what I'm reading there.
Yeah, and that, I think that's a fair point. And, you know, Mike, that may be I mean, obviously intent and expectation is a bond. And so.
Yeah, I think that unreasonably withheld later condition is, you know, if you all bring it up and have a conversation about it at a commission meeting and say, no, we don't like that, I think any contractual court would say that's a reasonable determination by the elected officials. I think what this is saying is, you know, just because if there's some unknown reason or attached some nuance to it that, you know, prevents us from being able to do anything without due process, I think it's the intent there.
Given that, I might suggest that we strike that last clause.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Real time if you guys are.
So we're striking it.
Yeah, and that way it'll just say, without the commission's written permission, period. I think that's a better point. And so my intent would be to obviously make that final revision, clean up the document, take out the red line, get the most updated exhibits that we have. I would work with Republic to clean up the document and have the exhibits ready as best we have. And then you all can decide how you want to present to the stakeholders.
Think you can get all that cleaned up next Tuesday?
Yeah, I think, because the exhibits are pretty much,
Unchanged from.
yeah, but for the soil borrow,
Just to clarify, so we want probably a clean copy of this with all the exhibits attached, no red lines or comments, and that's what would go forward. Okay, perfect.
That's what everybody wants, yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
assuming the exhibits are good to go, I don't see any reason we can't have that done in the next couple days.
So
The
we have,
60 days give us enough, I made the motion for 60 days to get to our stakeholders in hopes that that was enough time for everybody to feel. Because I want to be at the county commission meeting when this is presented. I'd make that request also.
Yeah, I would like to be at the county and city of Lenore City, and of course I'll be at the city of Loudon. Art, do you know when the city, when Lenore City's gonna hold a workshop or their
I don't
meetings?
know that, the 18th, I think, but I'll have to check
The
on that.
18th. Yeah, I thought they kind of doubled up.
But there's on Mondays, are there's Mondays?
Yes,
There's on Mondays.
yes.
We may have to split, divide and conquer.
So yeah, what I can do is, and I think 60 days probably is appropriate, Larry. You know, if for some reason something comes up and there's just no way it could be done, we can obviously revisit that motion at our next meeting, next month. But I think 60 days will get us there, assuming we get this document out to you all in the next couple days. Then you all can distribute to your respective stakeholders and schedule an opportunity for any discussion at a workshop. within
That
time
also,
frame.
Kevin, what that also does, that makes available this commission to the general public for 2 different meetings. So if the general public has issues, here's where they need to come. But I would like to see this commission support our chair and our attorney as they go to these other stakeholders just by attending.
So if we think that the county and the city of Lenore City are gonna be on the same day, but you're saying we'll be at the county,
No, I'm going to be out of town.
we could do the city of Lenore cities
Right.
at this April 18th, and then we would have time to circle back around to the county where there would probably be more citizen input in May.
And we can go ahead and distribute the document to the commissioners, you know, ASAP.
Let me ask one other question. Kelly, you want to present this to these commissioners, county commissioners, am I correct? You would prefer to?
Well, no, I'm good, but if somebody else wants to present it,
Well-
that's fine with me.
I think Kevin needs to be at these orchestrated meetings if possible.
Sure, I'll make it record.
And just, again, for back, there's gonna be questions. Why? And the biggest thing is, why is the tipping fees going up? So that's my, why are we entering in to this long term, which this whole commission should be able to answer any one of those questions. Why are we entering into a long term? It's to get us right side up financially.
We can look at the performance bond, what's gonna happen to it.
Exactly. I mean, I think this is the strongest thing that we've had for solid waste in Loudon County since we've been doing it.
What time does Lenore City's meetings take place?
Usually 6.
6.
It's a conflict with county commissions because it's the 3rd Monday
Yes.
At the same time, that was my question.
at the same time.
So, I mean, I can put it out there too, and I won't be there
So we got,
to
we
field
know,
up questions unless we wait till.
yeah, so we know we've got Loudon City on May 9th, Monday, May 9th. Is that at 6 o'clock,
6:30,
6:30? Right here?
right here.
Okay. We don't know Lenore City's schedule right now.
I'm out the whole week of the 18th anyway, just
The 18th of May,
Okay,
April, next week.
next week.
And so the next opportunity for a workshop for both of them is the 16th of May, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Does Lenore City hold theirs monthly at the same time, or do they have different workshops?
No, it's always this,
No,
JJ,
it's
isn't
the
it the
same.
3rd Monday of each month?
They don't always have workshops though.
No, we don't always have workshops.
Theirs are just sometimes
Mine's May
meetings.
6th.
So there's a possibility that there could be a direct meeting with Lenore City.
Yes, could be like maybe a special call or something, you
Exactly,
know.
yeah.
I don't know how they would want to handle that, but
We could contact them and see, check with them tomorrow and see if this were to come up and when they would like for it to come up. They may have a full agenda.
And they may make a special call out of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
They might not want to. since it's next week, we're not giving,
Much notice.
Not giving them a lot of heads up.
no. Well, they may choose to wait till next month and maybe have a workshop.
But we haven't taken a vote on it either, so,
No, but you're getting the mechanics to
Yeah.
what.
yeah.
So really, Kelly, your opportunity is May 18th for the county.
May 16th
Sixteenth, yeah.
for the county, but
And that's at what
if
time?
city council gets it before then I'm gonna hear it, so I'd rather try to get it. I'd rather try to get it there before May 16th.
Can you distribute
Yeah, I mean, we can distribute it, you know,
prior to
tomorrow.
their meeting?
Yeah, I can have it distributed. I just won't be there to answer any questions. I have an obligation to be out of town.
Yeah.
But
Are you comfortable with the remainder of the board doing that?
I would
you prefer
I
to
would
be
be
there?
comfortable with, some of the board being there with county commission, but I don't wanna turn them loose with it by themselves.
I think it'd be good for Kelly to be there with the
I
commission.
feel the same.
I do too.
You sit on that.
So, I think,
know, but I'm just saying, if like, the city already has it and stuff, it's gonna be to my board to go forward.
well, I think we could send the document out to everybody at the same time, you know, in the next day or two. It's just a matter of when it gets on agendas.
I like the idea of getting it out to the board, the stakeholders, board members prior to the meeting. So hopefully it's a short discussion when you present, both of us.
Yep.
That's,
I can get it out to them for the workshop.
So we're May 16th for the workshop.
she won't be there.
No, she'll be there,
I will be there in May.
May.
just not next week in April.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to give adequate time for Lenore City. That's that doesn't give them time. They couldn't even get it on their agenda at this point.
So they've got workshops, I guess we could kind of divide and conquer if we need to on the 16th, if there's a,
I think we're gonna have to do both on the 16th, but Lenore City sometimes does their workshops before their meetings, so I think they hold those earlier. So we could possibly get to the workshop for Lenore Cities if they held it earlier and still get to county commission as well.
do you know what time?
We could request to be bumped to closer to the bottom of the county commissions. That way we might be able to make them both.
Okay. So do we need me to contact Lenore City about May 16th?
Why don't we let our,
I'll handle it through Amber.
Oh, thank you, yes, thank you.
She kind of knows when those meetings are and who best should be notified when.
Yep, let them
Get them on the
run
schedule.
with it. We'll just get them the document as soon as we can and then let them run with it, but assuming it's probably gonna be the 16th most likely.
but I think it would be appropriate, once you've found it, to communicate that with email to Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kevin can distribute for the rest of us.
Yep.
And you can let me know.
And then the city of Loudon will get it before county commission, because ours is May 9. And if not, that would put us
Well,
in
that's-
June.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm just saying, if I gave it to him April, as in Tuesday, and me
Well,
not there,
wouldn't even have time to get it on the agenda.
no.
Yeah, so I think
So,
we'll get the document out, let's say we'll have the document out within a week to everybody. Probably less than that, but, and then,
Less than that. I'm out of here on Monday.
Yeah, but I am too, so
But
we're
next
not going to the
month,
same place either.
Meet you
Oh, but I'll be out here then too. So,
Okay, so I guess we've got a motion and a second.
mhm. So on this, we have a motion and a second. Much discussion anymore?
Will you stay with that motion is?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, the motion is to present the final clean draft of the Second Amendment with exhibits to the stakeholders and to set a time for final approval after 60 days at our meeting.
That's after 60 days.
Mhm.
So that can technically be 90.
Technically,
It could be, yes.
unless we did a special call meeting. Unless we did a special call meeting.
I think if everything stays on track, we should be okay in 60 days.
Get all that shifted?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm recording because last month I didn't have the video, so that's why there was playing.
Yes, and I got another excuse for that one too. But I made sure I called him this time.
Yeah, okay, good, 'cause this
It's
one's gonna be
just-
tough.
It's really strange that I have to call and remind people of everything. But we have a motion and a second on the floor. We're doing roll call.
Sure.
Terry's all left out. Terry needs to present to somebody.
There's a benefit cost ratio there.
Correct. Jameson.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Field.
Aye.
Chair.
Aye.
Small.
Aye.
Hunter.
No,
Stewart.
Aye.
All right.
Carries 6-1.
Carries 6-1.
So Mike, I'll work with you all on the exhibits. I'll clean up the document itself. We'll get it ready the next day or two. Perfect.
Well, that'll give you a little more time to clean up all the way. They're really misplaced. Finally, maybe. All right. No update on Dr. Wallace.
No.
Bless
He wants-
bless him.
Yep.
Bless him. Bless him. Which reminds me. I can turn it. He doesn't build it. Okay, so finally, Shelby, cash activity report.
Okay. I can start with the monthly financial report. The ending balance is $4,694,193.86. The Poplar Springs balance was $57,701.92, and that was making the combined total $4,686,896.39. And the landfill tonnage report for March, 22.5 day average is 651.37 tons. The 30-day average is 488.53 tons. Next is the customer activity report. We can review that. Okay, I believe next we usually do the inspection, which is at the back of your packet.
The what?
The PDEC inspection.
So if you look in there, you'll have two, one's for March and the other one's for April.
I have a question with regards to the summary customer activity report. The city of Athens, are they a new customer now? Are they gonna be a regular new customer?
No, No, they was coming to us there for a little while, but no, they're not gonna be a single customer.
Brewster
Not this
Service,
time.
Brewster Service Group with the MSW, are they paying gate rate?
When they're not hauling for Leon City, they are.
They're paying gate rate. Do you know how many others are paying gate rate that aren't part of your customers?
Not right now.
Okay, so, but if we get an average, it's pretty much,
Yes, if they do not have a contract with us yet, everybody pays gate rate.
okay. Thank you.
So if you can see in March inspections, we got on 8110, we got litter, AOC, 8170 is runoff, and 8180, it represents 8170 as erosion control, so it's basically the same thing. And that is the month of March.
$84.90, talk about that just a little bit, please.
Month of March,
Yeah,
right? I didn't see that one.
is that April?
Yeah.
Okay,
He's on April.
I'm on April.
I'm sorry, I'm not finding any, there it is, okay. Existing puddle of water. I mean, as you can tell, they would go, AOC added to it, but this was the day after it rained.
I guess I understand that, but what I'm seeing, it says it's dug too deep several years ago. Is that gonna be an ongoing,
This is gonna be the part of our new self-destruction in July.
okay,
So it's at the end of the, outside of the footprint of the line cell, it's out in like the natural ground area.
all right.
But as you can see in April, where we had no violations of, litter or stormwater runoff or road control, or anything else for that matter. So the guys did the team did a super, good job of correcting some areas. I know if you live around here, you know what March held as far as the high winds and the rain, so again, good job to the team out at the landfill.
Next is the materials classification report. We had 12,371 tons of MSW, 1,389 tons of special waste, and 850 tons of sludge. The total materials was 14,646 tons, and that was made up of 85% MSW, 15% special waste, and 6% sludge. Then there's the waste characterization report, and you can review that. Next is the landfill tire report. We had 36.01 tons in March, and that was bringing the annual total to 292.25 tons. Then I have the host and security fees for March. The host fee was $16,268.66. The security security fee was $20,541.23. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Ms. Hunter, these are the things that you had me roll over from last time.
Yes, with regards to the origin report, we did receive it, but it wasn't included in the public packet, and I would like for it to be included in the public packet and posted to the website. We've done that with all of our origin reports. With regard,
And I apologize because I do believe I did put it in there with that report. I don't know why it was not posted to the website. Another, again, for the complete packet.
yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with the packets, but they seem to be incomplete, so, again, I don't know.
Well, all I can do is I turn them into Anita and Anita gives them to Thomas to post on the website. I don't have access to the website to post them myself. I just turn them into her.
With regards to number 2, the tipping fees, notification letter, and rates, I think we received something with regards to the rates. And let me see if I have my letter here. I think that Santec Republic is requesting that that information be kept confidential. I think that it should be distributed in our workshop, in our packets, it has in the past. We could do the very same thing that we're doing with the summary customer activity report. Noted on the agenda that it was distributed, and if the public wants to make a records request, they may do so, that it is available for them. In regards to number 3, my questions and concerns submitted to Mr. Stevens. One concern that I have, and it has to do with the financial. I'd like to see something from someone, maybe not necessarily Mr. Bacchus, but maybe from GeoCentech, like they did a number of years ago, on the financial assessment to see if their projections show that how much money we're actually going to be making based on this tonnage or that tonnage or whatever. So we have some kind of a forecast that we should have in writing. So we have a long-term goal and also a projection, so we know for a fact that we're meeting that projection. And in view of this, the financial, the performance bond information going from what, 8 million to 13 million? I just want to make sure that we have something in writing that shows that whatever we're going to be collecting will be sufficient to cover the long-term finances.
It's not gonna be. That's why we are executing an amendment to make the public fully responsible and having a performance bond. There's no scenario that we're gonna have $13 million in the bank.
But shouldn't we have some kind of a projection as far as how much money, how much revenue we're going to generate from the expansion?
Yeah, I had prepared, and I can redistribute a slightly updated summary. I spoke with Richard Hill. He was willing to provide basic guideposts, but he said he is not authorized as an auditor to make projections about financials. But some of the bottom line of assuming, and I'll distribute this to you, but read the highlights. Obviously, the potential exposure is $13 million, which we saw tonight. Assuming no change and the contract runs its course in 2027, there's obviously it's a wide-ranging projection, but there could be a shortfall in the range of $6 million. in 2027 if there's no contract amendment. Assuming the execution of the contract amendment, and assuming steady host fee and security fees without really any increase, it's estimated there could be a potential surplus of $5 million or more at the conclusion of this contract.
With the extension.
Yes, excuse me. So I can hand this out.
And again, this is all
It's all,
projection.
I mean,
These
This is
gate
looking into
rate, when these gate rates change, that flow could change.
And I asked Mr. Stevens to get Richard Hill to kind of look at that and project the numbers.
He said he can't do it.
He can't do it on a crystal ball, he
Yeah.
says, that's looking into a crystal ball.
But, in large round numbers, there's reasonable evidence of a $6 million shortfall if no amendment
Right.
is executed, and a reasonable expectation of a potential surplus of $5 million if an amendment is executed.
And that, I think that projection at that time, Kevin, and help me here, I think is based on our volumes for right now.
Right now, exactly.
And that volume could go up, it could go down, either way. So though, there's no way other than what we took the best stab at doing, and I think this amendment does that.
You can look at the financial audit too, and look at plugging the numbers in that way.
But again, that's
You're still
projection.
looking at a crystal ball.
Yep. I mean, there could be a
That's
pretty,
what, when you add in the,
a pretty wide variance, but the point is that the amendment takes away the liability
Yes.
and it guarantees performance through a bond. And that's the biggest point. And there will be some pot of money at the end that this commission will be holding. Whether that's $2 million or $10 million, I don't know.
And that's pretty much been the consensus all the way from the get-go, Stephen, when we started with these negotiations. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because we talked those numbers, and again, there's no way to be exact. And I know some people would like for it to be exact and guaranteed, but in this business, there's no way.
There's such a wide variation in tipping fees and volume and closing costs. I mean, every single variable. As you can see, closing costs just went up 50%.
Yes, exactly.
well, and you have to look at too, I mean, look at our housing market in Loudon, how it's increasing. I mean, more people, more what? Trash.
More construction?
More construction, more trash. So, you know, that's gonna make a big difference in our numbers too.
Mr. Stevens, do you have an extra copy for Mr. Cox?
I've actually got one right here.
I've got a couple
Have
extras.
the extra.
Leave them up there. But this is a document we've been working off of for a couple of years, and it's supplemented based on what we do know is the TDEC projection of $13 million. That's a real number we now know. The rest of it is its projection.
Is there anything else? All right. We have no new business. And
So I've got one item to suggest the board think about.
new business. Okay.
Is the potential for getting a solid waste director. And things like the APR, and there's a whole variety of other things that person could look at.
That would be a good thought discussion for.
Just to think about possibility of what that might look like.
With a director, that director comes with a financial responsibility. And you're thinking about it would be answering to this commission or changing it up.
Yeah, I mean, most counties have a solid waste director that works for the county. And part of our challenge is the board, as a representative of all three entities, as part of the two cities in the county. And in my mind, you need somebody that's gonna be responsive to the cities and the county if they're gonna be the solid waste director, sort of working for us. At some level, I see him as being a county employee rather than an employee of the board, because we're not set up really to manage a person. But again, I'm just asking to think about it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think through the mechanics and the cost.
Logistics.
Yeah.
I do know that there's usually an issue of who bears the responsibility of that person's, financial requirement. You know, there's been times in the past when the cities and counties have split, that usually doesn't.
Yeah, they wouldn't say that, they would say, you're in the solid waste board, it needs to come out of your funds.
That's why we put you there.
But, you know, again, from my perspective, I think if the cities and the county all paid for it, if it came out of their budgets, they're gonna be more interested in what can this person do for me?
Yeah.
In terms of getting performance out of them and, you know, help with how do you be able to manage the school trash better to hopefully potentially decrease the bill that you gotta pay to manage the school trash.
But there's still requirements in order to have a solid waste director. He has to have a commission to answer to, whether it's this commission, county commission, city commission, they still have to answer to a commission. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would think so. But, you know, again, I'm just throwing it out to think about what, you know, what that might look like and talk about it.
Some investigation on that. I thought you were about to get another job to do, is to investigate. For Chairman Bill Gates, right? All right. So for new business, I have potential for a solid waste director information.
Yes.
Oh, do you have an update on Poplar Springs at all?
Yes, I have one update. It's too wet. I have talked to him and it's too wet to look at, it's too wet to do anything about. And it is under, they looked at it and they can't get in there, they're gonna tear up the road because of the wetness and it's gonna be a while. That's it. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
There, motion to adjourn in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So you guys are going on count.
Steve, thank you for the work that you did.
Have a vacation in Oh, really?
Tammy said that next time you're down at the restaurant, stopping to eat, Kelly's gonna pay for it.
And Chris Claiborne, the epic competition.
And I'm serious, I will. Okay, trust me, my husband will stop down there and eat you guys there. Kelly come by and pay the bill after a while, so we'll just,
I need to send her a copy.
he does, yeah, he needs to.
5 years
And I walk through the door and they have,
Time flies
it was here.
See you guys.
He said, you're the only person ever told me you wouldn't vote. I don't believe that. I believe that others would tell them. You're the only person that didn't tell them. I mean, you told them. You told them.
Thank you for all the years.
Well, he could be very cold.
Together.
I'm just getting tired of it.
Yes,
It's awesome, yeah. That's right.
I won't be here long.
The way to do it.
You know that, don't you?
All right, yeah, that's it, thank you. Sorry, work for us.
I mean,
Little bag there.
I know what it is. He's got a group of papers. Yeah. With the solid waste supposed to work for papers.
Hey, you weren't supposed to say that in front of them.
No, they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
I'll say.
See you later.